Hello, everyone. Welcome to Everything Arsenal. Back again with Cozy for another podcast. A lot to get into in this one. As always, it has been confirmed that Arsenal are set to sign a midfielder and a striker after Calafiori joins. And speaking of midfielder, Arsenal are now favourites to sign Merino. We'll be talking about that. And could Gyokeres end up being the striker? And if he does join, Jesus could be on his way to Saudi Arabia, which I'm not happy about, but we'll talk about that one. Cozy, how are you?
I'm perfect. It's been a little bit cold here. I'm freezing, but I'm okay with all the updates coming up. One of our first signings is getting done. The next one is also already prepared. And of course, we're going to see Arsenal back in action on Thursday in preseason. I just love watching Arsenal. So my life right now, perfect.
So let's start with the Merino one straight away. So last night it was confirmed Arsenal are the best placed team to sign Mikel Merino. The player considers Arsenal to be the best option for him. There are no offers on the table yet. And first, the news was ZRFC very quick on getting good news, like not good news, like news that you can depend on for sure. So they're saying that Mikel Merino could choose Arsenal. He's considering joining us, so it is his best option. So we talked about this last night, and you say, Atletico Madrid one team, we don't know if it's going to happen. A lot of the Spanish players love staying in Spain and moving to Atletico, moving to Real Madrid, moving to Barcelona. How happy would you be if Merino actually says, I prefer Arsenal to Merino to Atletico Madrid? And do you think he would actually say that, like, for sure? Would he be like, okay, it's just the best option for me in terms of money and all that? Or do you think you'd actually prefer Arsenal to Atletico Madrid?
Listen, I would be very happy if we get Mikel Merino if he chooses Arsenal because he's a player that Mikel Arteta likes. And of recent, we have one thing we can say: Mikel Arteta's signings work, and they actually work well. Yes, we have had a few where we've had to complain and maybe waffle a little bit, but eventually he's proven us that whatever you say, if I'm going to invest money on a player and time on them, they've got to work. So I'll be very happy because, again, this team needs experience. That is what it brings. This team needs that technical elegance in midfield. I think we still need a box crusher because Kai Havertz turned out to be a striker rather than a box crusher from midfield. I think Mikel Merino could do that. Could he come in and score a little bit more of goals than he has done previously in his career? Possibly, but in terms of the creative part of the game, I've always said I don't want Odegaard to be the only creative player in the team because that allows other teams to actually stop us effectively and quickly. And I think with Mikel, again, he's still looking at having two sides of the coin in the team working very well. He's still working on unpredictability. Where are we going to best the game this side? Is it on the left hand side? Is it on the right hand side? Last season, were very predictable. You could know that Arsenal are going to use Odegaard and Saka and White as their main attacking options, and yes, we did. How we won games so consistently, that is the genius of Mikel Arteta. But with Mikel Merino coming in, you have that element of unpredictability. Arsenal could attack you 70 minutes on the right hand side, and when you get a solution for that, they could switch it through Merino, Calafiori, and Martinelli, and then you just have 20 minutes of absolute quality and a masterclass on the left hand side as well. So I think Mikel Merino is such an important player for Mikel Arteta. But also in terms of squad depth, I'm one of the people who say if we are going to win it this time, finally, if we're going to go for maybe a double, I'd love to see a double. You're going to have a bigger squad. 14 players that the manager was trusting last season, that is a little bit small. That's a little bit, that's too small. Let's go with around 19 players for me or 20 players for me, a starting 11, and then an extra 7, 8 players that the manager can call on to when we have injuries, when we have burnout, when we have a dip in form, and things like that. I think Trossard has been a very good example. Now, can we beat Atletico Madrid to this signing? It's a 50-50. I know people out there think that we have beaten Man City, we have beaten Juventus and Madrid to players like Calafiori and Rice, and therefore ATM is easy. ATM is not easy. ATM, Dortmund, Benfica, Ajax, those are clubs that you can easily underestimate in the market, and they will surprise you. Like the way we wanted Jude Bellingham, Man United went Jude Bellingham, and somehow he ended up at Borussia Dortmund, and then he ended up at Madrid. So I think with Atletico Madrid, we don't undermine them. We don't have to, but we just have to overwork them. We just have to overwhelm them in terms of what we offer the player, in terms of what we are willing to offer to Real Sociedad, but then also how quick we are willing to act. Because with them, what I've seen is they started a little bit earlier on this deal. So they kind of felt comfortable during the Euros, and they were like, we will proceed after Euros. We have talked to the players' entourage before the Euros. They know that we are there. They know that we are interested. After the Euros, we'll just go back and reignite the interest. Unluckily for them, after the Euros, Arsenal were already knocking on the door, and Barca were already knocking on the door as well. So yes, we can beat them, but it's not going to be an easy one. It's going to deal with us being quick and agile, but then also doing a little bit more and putting in a little bit more of effort than what ATM are willing to do.
And would he want to join Arsenal? What would attract him to Arsenal more than Atletico Madrid? And do you expect any other teams to come in for him? Because at the moment you're only hearing Arsenal and Atletico Madrid. Is there a chance any other team come in for him, or do you think it's just at Arsenal and Atletico for now?
It's a market opportunity, first and foremost. It's a market opportunity. So you've got to think about how many clubs are under PSR, fair, and they would love to do a 20 million euro deal or a 25 million euro deal. Those are so many: Juventus, Arsenal, Man United, Liverpool, and a couple of others, ATM and Barcelona and the others with Champions League fair play rules. So I think because it's such a low hanging fruit, we are going to see a couple of clubs try to inquire, probably not bidding and probably not putting in the fire, but we are going to see a little bit of the Ricardo Calafiori situation, where you had Juventus and Madrid and Arsenal trying to sign him actively, but then you had Man United in the background, Chelsea in the background, Leverkusen in the background, and a couple of other clubs in the background, wishfully thinking, if he doesn't go to Arsenal, if he doesn't go to Juventus, we can actually pick him up. So I think there will be other clubs. It has been reported that Unai Emery has watched him for quite some time. And of course, we know that Unai Emery is a big guy in the Spaniard market. He understands players from there. He understands the league. So I won't be surprised to see Unai Emery just try. Yes, they've signed Amadou Onana. For me, it's far away from enough. It's very, very far away from enough. I think they will try to go and get another player with a bit of technical elegance, and that could be Mikel Merino. They've been linked with him. He's been linked to Unai Emery, not to Aston Villa, that Unai Emery would love to sign him. So I won't be surprised if that materializes into concrete interest. But at the moment, I would say, since Barca are prioritizing Danny Olmo and Nico Williams, I think it's between ATM and Arsenal. It's between those two. ATM have been there since the start. Arsenal have been there, right since from the Euros, around quarterfinals. We started showing our interest, and then we started talking to the player, to the player as well. Now, why would he choose Arsenal, and what would attract him to this Arsenal project? It's a lot. I think at 28, as a player, you're thinking, what kind of silverware am I going to hang up as I say goodbye to the beautiful game? What kind? Yeah, I'm very talented. Yes, I've won the Euros, but at club level, what kind of quality, what kind of output am I going to show up? And this is the age at your prime where you want to win. This is the age. The likes of Mikel Merino at 28, David Raya at 28, Gabriel Jesus. All these are players in their prime, and in your prime, you're looking for where to make the most amount of money and where to get silverware, where to say, we have a Champions League, I have a Premier League, and probably have an FA Cup as well. So that's the first thing. With Atletico Madrid, you can win, and you have guaranteed UEFA Champions League football, but you're not guaranteed to win at ATM, simply because in the La Liga, Barcelona and Real Madrid must fail first for you to win. And then in the Champions League, Barcelona, Madrid, Bayern, Arsenal, Man United, Man City, all those must fail first for you to win. So it's not that easy. So at Arsenal right now, he's looking at a project that is offering him a chance to win without building. I mean, think about Ramsdale. Think about Ben White. These guys came in at Arsenal when there was no future. They entered a vast dark place. Mikel Merino is going to enter Arsenal and walk on the streets that are well lit streets. Electricity is there. Everything is like, you can see everything. You can see all the corners. So that's the first opportunity. You come in and you're among the final pieces to the puzzle. We know how to beat Man City now. We know how to beat Liverpool now. We know how to concede less than 30 goals now. What you're coming to do is to add a little bit of squad depth and maybe quality in that number 8 role and get us over the line. That is not as hard as seeing your team walloped 5 goals to nil while you have Holding, Mustafi Kolasinac, and
Oh
all that.
God.
Yeah. So he's coming into a much better project. But then I also think that in terms of wages, Arsenal's wage structure has been, stretched a little bit these days. We're seeing the likes of Gabriel Jesus 200k, Kai Havertz 200k, and a couple of few lads on 200k. I think we have 17 players that are earning 100,000 per week plus. That is not as if Arsene Wenger came in right now, all those guys would be earning half their wages or even more than half, less than half their wages. If he came in and brought back the structure we had, many years ago. So I think we can offer him more money, which people think is bad. It's not bad. You must compete for talent. So we can pay him well. We can give him the route to winning, which is like straightforward. And you would want that. But then Mikel Arteta is also Spaniard as a manager. I think there will be that connection. They can speak the same language. He can understand him. He will understand him. And he will be able to tell him, hey, I had a guy called Granit Xhaka. You're faster than him. Your passing range is better than his, and you can actually score more goals and create better chances than he can, because for him, he's more of a game controller rather than a chaos creator.
Now, he's also played with Odegaard. We'll talk about that. He's played with Odegaard before. Now, you're very right. In terms of age, he's 28 now, heading to the 30s. He's already been at Sociedad, at Dortmund, at Newcastle, several teams. He hasn't really won the big trophies. He recently won the Euros, obviously, as you can see here, and he scored a crucial goal against Germany. So in terms of that, he has a lot to win. So maybe if he sees us as a project where he can come and win the Premier League and maybe get further in the Champions League and maybe win a couple of camp competitions, then yeah. So maybe he doesn't even like Atletico Madrid. We don't know. Maybe he likes Sociedad, but he hates Atletico Madrid. Doesn't want to go there. Who knows? We never know what is happening. But one of the reasons why we are going for him as well is the money, and they've set a price for him. According to Ryan Taylor Sport, Real Sociedad resigned to losing Euro 2024 winner Mikel Merino and won 30 million euros for Arsenal midfield target. This is very cheap. All the other midfielders who are available, Joao Neves at first, this was like 100 plus million. I know PSG are going to end up getting him for 70 or something. Bruno Guimaraes, I think Newcastle would want like 90 million. Even if you try to get to Zubimendi, I think we were being told 55 million at the
60 million
time.
euros.
That's a lot of money. I think the only cheaper ones would have been, even Onana's gone for 50.
50.
The
So
cheaper
it's
ones would have been
Fofana.
maybe Fofana.
Yeah.
And Douglas Luiz, they wanted player swaps and all that, and they wanted money on top of that. They got two players. Juventus got Luiz, they gave away two players, and they gave away money on top of that as
23
well.
million
To us,
euros in top, yeah.
Again, that's the too much money. Imagine us giving them 23 million
Plus
plus
Nketiah and
Nelson and
ESR.
Smith Rowe. That's too much. So that would not have been a possibility. If we had the likes of Holding, Steele, and Cedric, then maybe. But in terms of quality, we cannot give them two players. So 30 million euros, or too many players who can do that. And Merino, technical-wise, you consider him better than Fofana, right?
Yeah.
So for 30 million euros, I think that is a very, very good price. And a lot of teams will be looking at that, as Cozy has said. For me, I'll be getting him now. The other question is, if he comes in, he's played with Odegaard before to say that, so they have a relationship there. Would you be satisfied with Partey, Rice, Jorginho, and Odegaard as your midfield?
I don't think we would have 4 start, but I think there would be a sacrifice there, and that sacrifice would be Thomas Partey.
Sacrifice in terms of what? Being sold?
No, starting.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but in terms of options, that is rich. That is really rich. If I compare that to a Fabio Vieira who we actually don't use, and a Mohamed El Neni on the bench, I think having Jorginho and Merino on the bench, that is rich, because Jorginho can come in and control games, and Merino can also come in and control games and manage games as well. If we are a goal down and we wanted a game changer, we could bring in Martinelli, Merino, and Zinchenko on the same pitch, right? and that could change a game. And maybe and Gabriel Jesus, and that could change a game. So I think I would be satisfied with the midfield options. And also in midfield, I don't know whether Mikel plans on using Declan Rice in another way, but if we could get Mikel Merino to play alongside Odegaard and allow him to create chances from that left-hand side, from that left pocket of space, I think that would be a much better side, would be more unpredictable, and it would take a lot more for teams to stop us than it was last campaign. Because last campaign, Porto showed us that if you stand on Odegaard, you can stop Arsenal from creating. They will have the ball, yes, but you can stop them from creating. But if you have a player like Mikel Merino, which we could get, which again could be even advanced if Fabio Vieira gets a good season, you have three players that are so creative. You just interswitch them, and the other team just lose their, the tracking on the map. So yeah, I think it's good midfield options. Experience is there. Of course, Partey might leave eventually in the summer, but you have Partey who's 31, 32. You have Jorginho is what, 31, 32 as well,
Yeah.
around there. And then you have Mikel Merino who's 28. Lots of experience, lots of calmness, especially when we are playing like a Manchester United at Old Trafford, and Merino is in the midfield and Rice in the midfield and Odegaard. There's a lot of calmness there. We could lead a goal to nil in the first second and win that game a goal to nil without even parking the bus.
Yes, sounds very exciting. So, as Fabrizio would say, so guys, this is what we have right now with Mikel Merino. Arsenal, the best placed team to sign him. The player considers Arsenal to be the best option for him. No offers on the table yet. I think the player himself is still on holiday, just like the other Spanish players and English players who have just competed in the Euros final, enjoying himself after winning the cup. So I think maybe by this week we'll know whether we are going to go for him or not. So let's wait and see what happens with that. Now, that is the first option. That is the first position you're going to try and sort out after Calafiori, by which is the next one. According to Esther Collins, after Ricardo Calafiori, Arsenal are planning further signings this summer with a midfielder and another forward, their next priority. So we've talked about a midfielder. Merino is the one that we are really looking at. There's not too many others that have been mentioned, or the ones that have been mentioned have already moved to other teams or decided to stay at their team. So next up is a forward, a position causes that a lot of people really want us to sign players. People are talking about wingers, asking about strikers every single day. Out of the forwards, so you think they're looking for just specifically forward strikers, or forwards wingers who can play as a striker, or which one are you thinking Arteta is looking for right now?
I think this one depends on many things, but I would say that in January, February, around there, when they're drafting when they're making the draft, they were open to anything, and that's why we saw Arsenal trying to get Šeško earlier on in the window. And then also, we've been heavily linked with Nico Williams. So they were open to three situations. The first situation is you could lose Gabriel Jesus, right? Because right in March, their stories came out from The Athletic, very reliable Ghana blog, James McNicholas, saying if a good offer comes in for Jesus, Arsenal will listen. They are not pushing him, but they will listen. So Arsenal are very open to signing a striker and signing a winger in the same summer, because they knew Reece Nelson was going to leave. Eventually, he told us, I want to assess my options. ESR has told us, I want to assess my options as well. And Trossard is getting older and Saka needs backup. So I think the initial plan was we are open to anything. Then, as time has gone into the window, they've realized Nketiah won't be able to be kept. Reece Nelson won't be able to be kept, but we will keep Gabriel Jesus. So I think it's now about Kai Havertz walking into that striking line permanently and Gabriel Jesus backing him permanently as well. So I think the focus right now for Arsenal is going to be either to bring in a player that can play across that forward line. We've been linked with many of those, and we've been told that it would be a priority for Mikel Arteta to get a player who is very, very competent, or to bring in a center forward. I think wingers are a little bit tricky for me. I'm not really sold onto the Pedro Neto rumor. I think Nico Williams will go to Barcelona. Rafinha, I'm not sold onto that one. But I think the center forward position is one that Arsenal could address this summer. It's one that we might see Arsenal just bite the bullet and go and sign a center forward. So at the moment, I'm going to say next focus will be a center forward. Unless we fail to agree on a deal, then we'll start to scratching the surface for a winger.
Now, I agree with because in terms of wingers, there's not too many unless they decide to go with players like Bakayoko or they decide to go with players that we haven't been linked to before, like a
Yes,
Harvey Barnes,
Asprilla.
because has mentioned Harvey Barnes before, or you go with the Somerville, or you go with Gnonto, or we go for a Solly match, or you go for Mitoma, players like that haven't been linked before. But I don't think those will be expensive as well. But it could happen. Like those are the kind of deals like the Timber one that could come out of nowhere. Like I remember Tomiyasu deal came out of nowhere, Vieira one came out of nowhere. So we could hear exclusive Arsenal make fast bid for Solly match or fast bid for Bakayoko or something like that. And we have to wait and see. For me, I was looking for a backup for Saka, but forward players. So one forward player that a lot of Arsenal fans have been flooding my comments about is Viktor Gyökeres. So the update we had about him, this was a week ago, according to TBR Football. They did say Arsenal and Chelsea are among the clubs that retain an interest in Viktor Gyökeres. Sources with knowledge of the situation have told TBR that they believe his Sporting would now consider deals close to £60 million. Now, they haven't yet dropped their price. Their price is around £83 million. So, do you think they're going to be able to sell him for that £83 million, or do you think they're actually going to have to drop to that 60 million for anyone to come in for him?
They're unlucky. First and foremost, the market has turned out ugly and uglier than everyone anticipated, especially the striker market. Because when we were talking about the strikers in March and the strikers in April, we're talking about around 5 clubs needing a striker: Arsenal, Tottenham, Manchester United, and a couple of others. And we were saying, even Chelsea, and we were saying strikers are going to be going for like 80 million, 90 million. And by the time we're looking at strikers, and we're like, okay, they're going to be the striker market is going to be most interesting. It has been the most boring market I've ever seen. Like, most boring market. The striker market has been really, 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 really bad. So I think they will look into it and they'll see Joshua Zirkzee going for 30 million or 40 million euros. The most expensive striker we have seen going for a lot of money right now is who? Like the likes of Girassi, pennies, like really real pennies. So I think
Zirkzee cheap as well.
Zirkzee cheap as well. They will look into it and they will agree internally that the market has disappointed, but you're not going to have another real opportunity to market a player like Gyokeres. You're not going to have another 50 goal season. You're not going to have another. Yes,
imagine. That's a lot.
Yeah, 58. So this is their chance to get the biggest amount of money out of him as they still can. So they know they won't be able to sell at 83 million pounds, but 80 million pounds is not bad. 75 million pounds is not bad. 70 million pounds for Gyokeres, a guy that you signed yesterday and you're selling him tomorrow. You're literally just flipping, like as if you're flipping, a house in real estate business. That is actually not bad. Like, you didn't sign him for 50 million. You signed him for less than, I think, 30. And now you're flipping in for almost double or even triple the profit. That is good. That's okay, right? So I think they will reduce the price. There's no way they're going to sell him at 83. They'll just stay with him. And these times we've seen that clubs are okay and good with ignoring talents, even in Portugal. Like, they've had Marcus Edwards for some time. They've had Inacio for some time. They've had Diamonde for some time. And clubs have been linked with them for some time. And clubs are just feeling, these guys are very expensive. Would rather look elsewhere. Would rather go and sign, cheaper players elsewhere.
Yeah, and he's literally the only striker that that is really available. All the others are very difficult. We did a stream with Cozy last night, and he asked me the same question, and I was like, I feel like this is very possible compared to all the other strikers. Literally, there's no strikers that have been linked. I just hear this one want this one, and they've signed Zirkzee. Sesko signed a new contract or is staying, whatever. The striker from Girona, no one has really gone for him. The striker from Feyenoord, Jimenez, no one has really gone for him. All these strikers, no one has really gone for him. We thought there was going to be a lot of strikers available. I agree with you. I thought this was going to be a transfer window where we see Zach moving. You're going to see Gyokeres moving, Osimhen moving, maybe even Nicholas Jackson moving, leaving Chelsea, maybe even Jesus and Nketiah both leaving Arsenal, maybe a Nunes surprisingly leaving Liverpool. They are talking even Salah in terms of wingers leaving. Like we thought this was going to be a transfer window with a lot of movements, but it hasn't turned out that way. So for the Gyökeres one, I think it's going to be a little bit of patience. Now it's not only us who want him. How concerned are you about Chelsea wanting him as well? Because Chelsea already have Nkunku, Nicholas Jackson. They wanted Omorabon or something from Atletico Madrid, the striker.
Yeah, Samuel Omoradian.
Is that one. So are you worried about Chelsea if they drop it to 60 million? Would you be worried about Chelsea?
Not really, not at all. I think Chelsea this summer have been very clear with their strategy. They want to spend as low as possible. Actually, I'm surprised that Chelsea didn't go for Joshua Zirkzee, probably because they have such a profile a lot in their ranks. Yeah, but in terms of a striker that's going to go for 50 million and above, I don't see Chelsea try to do that. They've made it very clear they would rather, unless the player is in a priority position, they want to continue with Nicholas Jackson and they want to continue developing him. And they're also nowhere near, big deals this summer, big money deals this summer. I think they're just trying to make sure that they're in line with PSR and FFP as well. So Chelsea, I'm not surprised that they're there, but I'm not worried about them. I think they've been linked with every player. They've become the new Arsenal, by the way, if people have noticed. When Arsenal are somewhere, Chelsea's there. When Man United are somewhere, Chelsea's there. Their name is being thrown around the way we were under Arsene Wenger. But why I wouldn't be even surprised that they don't sign him is the new manager in Enzo Maresca. When I look at the kind of project he's building and his tactical setup, I don't think Gyökeres is the guy. I think he would prefer. There's a reason as to why they are very strong on Samuel Omoradian. He's a very, very specific profile of a player. And now they didn't get him. They also tried to sign the second striker at Aston Villa, Jean Duran. Yeah, so they also tried to sign John Duran. They're looking for something specific, but also something a little bit cheap.
Yeah, I'm spot on. So Gyökeres, I'm still confident it could still happen. I think if we get Gyökeres through the door, it will boost a lot of confidence, the fan base, because everyone is talking about Gyökeres. I know, like last season, I'm sure people have not really watched Gyökeres apart from the highlights, but the fact that he's scored, I still believe like getting 43 goals and 15 assists is crazy. That means you have different styles in your play. His power in terms of shooting is incredible. He can score from a couple of headers as well, right foot, left foot. He's a really good player. When you're talking about him and comparing him to Sesko and Osimhen back in May and June, we know that he's very good. But someone did say he's just recovered from his injury. Remember, he went through an operation. So are you worried about that as well? The injury, we're not sure about how serious the knee injury is. Is it brave or stupid to go and pay 80 million for a player who is just undergone a knee injury that we already have a striker who also has knee problems?
Well, listen, for me, it's about the treatment and it's about the frequency and how recurring is it. If it's a problem that can be well researched by our team and we find out that it's not a problem that he has had in the past, therefore it's not recurring, and it has been treated well as well. That's very, very key. Our medical staff, our medical team should be able to go and clarify the situation. Do we trust this guy to heal completely and become as lethal as he was and play and compete at the topmost level? If yes, I don't have a problem. The problem is us getting a player while some of the information has been hidden. It's one thing I fear for Ricardo Calafiori. He's had this line of injuries, yet Arsenal, for some reason, made him top priority over a Murillo, who doesn't have injuries, over a Jared Branthwaite, who doesn't have such injuries. So there's a big question to be had with Gyökeres. Is it just a one-time thing? And even if it's a one-time thing, has it been treated very, very well, right? Your medical team must be able to clarify. If he's been treated very well and it's not a recurring injury, bring him in.
Okay, fair enough. So that is really the only striker that we are currently linked to. Osimhen, we don't know if he's going to end up at PSG. Have you thought about any other forward players or wingers that we could potentially get that we've been linked to? I don't think there's any at all. People have mentioned Watkins and Isak. Those ones are not realistic. Those ones are not going to happen. So there's none others really.
The only one is Neto, maybe. I can feel I can feel a NATO shock transfer. I can feel a NATO shock transfer.
Okay, so there's not too many other strikers really to talk about, but we've also been told that if the Gyökeres deal is going to happen, we might have to sell players. And one player we are looking to sell is Gabriel Jesus, because Al Ali, I don't know if you're looking to sell him. I mean, teams are interested in him. Al Ali have Gabriel Jesus and Richarlison on their target list for potential striker signings. I've always said I want Jesus to stay, and I've always said I think Nketiah wouldn't want Jesus to leave right now. He personally went for him at Man City for a reason. I know it changes his mind very quickly, but for Jesus and Zinchenko, I think he's going to still keep them for one more season to see how it goes, because they really do fit his style of play, the way he wants football to be played, and they do understand him, and he does understand them more, like since the Man City days. But Al Ali have come in and I said, listen, we're interested, and this guy is on our list alongside Richarlison. We can get him now. Would you be trying to sell both Jesus and Nketiah and replacing them with one striker in Gyökeres, first of all?
It's a very important season that we're going into. For Gabriel Jesus, people who say keep him, that is one reason why I would listen to them. Keep him because you're keeping your squad together. Keep him because you've built something with such players, and there's a way they impact this Arsenal squad. They've come in, they have shown a different mentality. They have shown us that they are, much better in terms of quality. You would want to keep him. I would want to keep him. But if our striker search and our striker deal heavily depends on him, if the Cronkies and the board go, get rid of Jesus and we get you Gyökeres, I'll be looking to get rid of him. Now with Nketiah, for me, I could be wrong about this, but I kind of see him as a very, very peripheral player who will leave, and the only exciting part about Nketiah leaving for me is who gets the shot 14. That is what I'm waiting for. When he leaves, can we do some good justice to that shot 14? And
that's something we're looking forward to, eh?
yeah, and give it to a guy that deserves it. Like give shot, and don't give it to Kai Havertz, please. But that's what I'll be looking at. But apart from that, honestly, I think Nketiah can be easily replaced. I wouldn't be replacing them with one player. I think you can go and again get one of these upcoming strikers, maybe Yusuf Mokoko from Dortmund, get him into the squad, and then bring in a good striker. But I wouldn't be really looking to sell Gabriel Jesus right now. I don't think it's one of our priorities.
But would you be swayed if the money is correct? How much money would you be like, Glenn, listen, I know you like Jesus, but we need to do this deal. How much money would get your head turning?
With Gabriel Jesus, I'm looking at two things. One, I don't think that his market value is going to drop massively this season. Reason, last season he really struggled in and out of games, and I think it was one of his worst seasons in terms of consistency. So this season I tip him to be a little bit more consistent. His value is going to go up rather than down, right? So we are not under pressure, and we are not I'm not worried that his value is going to drop. So I'm going to say anyone that comes in with 65 million pounds and above, I will listen.
Okay, so quick fire, yes or no. Sell Nketiah for 25 million?
No.
Sell Jesus for 30 million?
No.
Buy Gyökeres for 85 million?
No.
Sell Jesus for 30 million, sell Nketiah for 30 million, and then use that money to sign Gyökeres.
No.
No, not very great options. Not very great options. But what about you keep Nketiah, you sell Jesus for 40 million, and then you get Gyökeres for 60, and then Nketiah becomes your backup striker?
That's a good deal. That's a good deal because it just phases out Eddie Nketiah. It's harsh because he knows that with Gabriel Jesus, he has a chance. Jesus is very, very substitutable. You can take him off by him missing like 5 chances in a row. With a player like Gyökeres, I think it makes Kai Havertz the second striker. It makes Eddie Nketiah the guy that's never going to play. But for me, that's a good deal. 40 million for Gabriel Jesus right now, that's okay. If I'm going to just add to 20 million and get Gyökeres.
Okay, so you've brought up Nketiah. Nketiah is also linked to the move away. According to L'Equipe, Marseille are closing in on a deal for Eddie Nketiah. Personal terms have now been agreed between the player and Olympique Marseille. This was announced last night, deep in the night. So Marseille personal terms agreed, so looks like he's happy to go to Marseille. I know we talked about it yesterday and we said, listen, you might want to stay in England, but Marseille do want him. Now, how would you be approaching this deal with them for Nketiah? Because they're talking about a loan with an obligation to buy next year. Are you satisfied with that deal, or do you think we need the money now to work on our deals?
I don't think we are desperate for money, but it would be nice to get some money in, some good money into a bank account for some of our players. Lokonga, same issue.
Option to buy Tavares,
Option to buy. Option,
buy.
like it would be nice to hear that Arsenal have sold a player and Arsenal have been given their money, and add-ons will come later. It would be nice. But with our players right now, because of their wages, we are kind of in a tight situation, in a corner. So an obligation to buy, I wouldn't have a problem with that. I wouldn't have a problem with an obligation to buy.
Okay, so do you think Marseille is a good move for him? Do you think you'd actually go there and shine? Like we've seen a lot of players in France, like the likes of Giroud scoring even 500 goals in a season in France. Do you think we can go and see the same for Nketiah there? Like he can enjoy themselves and score goals, and maybe if we throw in a sell-on clause, he can end up being sold by Marseille for 60, 70 million. Do you see his game improving over the next 4 years if he goes to Marseille?
I wouldn't say improving because he's 25 and he's just entering his prime, but I can see him appear on the scene more consistently. I can see him score 13 to 15 goals more consistently for a club like Olympique Marseille, and I can see more of his highlights on my timeline on Twitter. People saying we shouldn't have sold him. But I don't think he's going to turn into a Viktor Gyökeres 50 goal machine or an Erling Haaland by going to the French League One.
Okay, so lastly, all the players that have been linked to the move away from Arsenal, Partey, Jesus, the Haaland boys, the three of them, no offers for Ramsdale as of yet, by the way. Kivio, all those players. If we could only sell, how many do you think you're going to sell out of those 7 players?
I think I'm going to go with 4. 4 of them will be out of the door. Ramsdale is a late night deal. Like he's gonna leave. You just don't know when, and it's one of those that just
who has the best chance of staying out of those 7?
Best chance of staying, I'm going to say. I think I'm going to say our ESR
ahead of Partey and Jesus.
Oh, ahead of Partey and Jesus.
Yeah,
no.
so Partey, Jesus.
No. Ahead of I think Jesus. I think the manager really sees him as a vital part of his team. And Mikel, I think thinks if not the injuries, I would have had my Gyokeres Jesus. I would have had the player that we signed for around 45 million pounds. But the 4 that I can tip to go, I think Ramsdale, ESR, Nelson, and Nketiah. Those ones. I think I'm confident.
Who will be fast? Like this week, because I think fast it has to be this week. Unless we don't sell anyone this week again, it has to go to next week.
I think all of them will be in preseason until Manchester United. Or all of them will appear against Manchester United. But as things stand right now, I think Nketiah leaves fast because Marseille
it's not in our hands, obviously.
Yeah,
it's not in our hands, obviously. But are you a fan of players being involved in your preseason if they're not going to be almost half of them?
No, not at all. Not at all. I'm against it because, and that's why I want my signings to come in a little bit early. I want our signings to come in a little bit early because you don't want to test a new pattern of play with Nketiah, Emile Smith-Rowe, Reece Nelson, and Ramsdale, and then all of them leave. That is like half of the team has left. Well, you've implemented a new strategy, and then you struggle to teach it to the new players that that are just coming in. So I would prefer. By now, we have 3 signings already come in, and by now, at least 4 players have gone out. Like for example, Emile Smith-Rowe, we knew that Fulham and Crystal Palace are 100% locked onto them. You get that one out, you get that one done. We know that Reece Nelson is really on the radar for West Ham. You get that one out. Nketiah, Marseille, you get that one out. Maybe Ramsdale is the one I'll be like, okay, there are no concrete offers for Aaron Ramsdale at the moment. Let's see what happens. But the rest of them, get rid of them before preseason. Don't waste your time on them. Like the manager is wasting his energy on them.
Okay, now last one again. Yesterday I didn't ask you about Tommy. We talked about Tomiyasu, but I didn't ask you a question. I've seen some polls saying, can we try and sell him? Would you be considering selling Tomiyasu, or do you think even if the injuries, no, you have to keep him for this season, even if he plays 10 games?
We are not that desperate. We are not really that desperate. I've just looked at 10 different combinations Mikel Arteta could use with with Calafiori, Timber, Gabi, Tomiyasu, White, and Saliba, and 8 of those don't even have Tomiyasu in the team. Now, Tomiyasu is one of the players that, like you've already said, you can bring him to man mark on a man marking job. You can bring him to solidify the defense. He's tall, he's quick, he's agile, he's very, very versatile. No, I wouldn't be looking to sell. Like, it's pointless at the moment.
Okay, and with Kivio, would you be now trying to keep him desperately because of the Tomiyasu injury?
No, as well not. Actually, when I was trying to structure the 10 combinations we could use with our defense this season, I didn't even include Jakub Kivio there. So for me, I think
Wow.
Kivio has got. I think he's got to go. I think he's got to go. Simply because next season he plays much less, and his value is much less.
Interesting. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll catch up with you on